We are recording as well. All right, Mr. Receiver, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Dowry, and I currently serve as receiver for the city of Chester. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today for the Municipal Financial Recovery Advisory Committee meeting, MFRAC for short. We are joined here today by Mr. Andrew Sheaf on behalf of the Governor's Office and Department of Community and Economic Development. Also joined by Ms. Kelly Diaz on behalf of Delaware County Council. And it looks like joining us now are Mayor Kirkland and Councilman Will Morgan on behalf of the city of Chester. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And for our team, my team, the receivers team, we have our Chief of Staff, Vijay Kapoor, and the Executive Assistant on behalf of DCED, Mr. Cody Dale. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, having called this meeting to order, our next agenda item is public comment. Mr. Dill, would you like to address that?
Sure, thank you. So to this date, since our last MFRAC meeting, we still have not received any additional public comments. We'd like to encourage the public to continue to reach out to us through the email address info@chesterreceivership.com. Again, any public comments can be sent to info@chesterreceivership.com.
Thank you, Mr. Dill. I would also encourage anyone who would like to meet personally one-on-one or with a group or behalf of any institution or organization, please feel free to use the same communication channels, info@chesterreceivership.com or through our website, chesterreceivership.com, to reach out to request that, and we will get something scheduled as soon as possible. Our next agenda item is the status of the Receiver's Recovery Plan. This agenda item is typically headed by Mr. Kapoor. Would you like to provide an update?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Receiver. I've got just a couple of short updates here. One regarding operations, the other the bankruptcy process. Regarding operations, just two quick updates here. As some of you may know, through ARPA funds, we have been able to purchase, or in the process of purchasing, police vehicles for the Chester Police Department. That obviously has been long in the making and long overdue. Happy to report that at least 3 of those vehicles have come in, and that we are hoping to get others kind of on a staggered basis. Part of the issue has been supply chain, and we're thankful to Kyle Battineri in the police department, Greg from the receivers team for working and kind of moving forward on trying to get those procured and in here. So happy to report we've got a couple of new vehicles here for the police department. Look to get several more coming in. Another issue that I know is of particular importance and interest of some residents is that we intend to go out with the parking management RFP in the next couple of weeks, looking to restart and really get a vendor for some temporary parking management services, as well as the development of a comprehensive parking plan for the city. So we anticipate that RFP going out in the next couple of weeks to be able to move forward there. So we know that are of import and that we're moving forward on. Couple of updates regarding the bankruptcy process of where things are right now there. The first is we are still awaiting Judge Chan's decision as to eligibility in the bankruptcy matter. We had the hearing, I believe, on February 13th was the date of the eligibility hearing, and awaiting her ruling on eligibility. A couple of other updates here. Yesterday we had another hearing in bankruptcy court regarding 2 matters. One was the application of the stay regarding the sale of Delcora in the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission process. And the other was a rejection of the parking contract with PFS in bankruptcy court. Regarding the matter regarding Delcora, and again, we know many folks have been following this. And again, I'm going to speak specifically as to the bankruptcy process and where this is laying in the bankruptcy process is under bankruptcy, there is an automatic stay for litigation that is enacted in order to protect the estate of the debtor, in this case, the city. We believe that the city has a reversionary interest in assets in the event that Delcora ceases to ceases to operate. And as many of you know, they were going through the process in the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission regarding a potential sale to Aqua. The receiver in bankruptcy court filed a motion to enforce the stay in that case, which essentially said that the PUC needed to stop the proceedings until we could resolve the issue regarding the reversionary interest. And yesterday, we had a hearing in front of Judge Chan regarding that request. We were there. The attorneys representing Aqua were there as well. And what Judge Chan had preliminarily ruled there from the bench was that she was going to continue the stay as it related to the PUC proceedings for at least the next 60 days, which she gave us, the receivers team / the city, to try and meet with Aqua to determine and Delcora what exactly are the assets that would be covered under the reversionary interest. And so, there will be at least a stay from the bankruptcy court over the next 60 days as we try and work through that issue. And I should also say the administrative law judge in the PUC proceeding has also issued a stay there. Again, that is not in the bankruptcy court, but has issued a stay. And to the best of all our knowledge, that stay is continuing. The second matter from that was yesterday was in bankruptcy court. Again, this is a rejection of. So as many of you know, in state court, the receiver went to state court and received a ruling from Judge Seisler that the parking contract with PFS was void because the city didn't follow the proper procurement procedures. That was on the state court proceeding, and PFS has appealed that decision, which is currently sitting with the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. In addition to that, in bankruptcy, a debtor, that is the city, has the ability to reject contracts, which is essentially to cancel contracts. And again, that is separate and apart from the state law. And yesterday, based on a filing that we had initially in our first day, we filed a request to reject the PFS contract. Currently before Judge Chan, and we anticipate having her rule on that matter relatively soon. So I don't want to speak for her on this, but we will see that hopefully a decision on that or order on that relatively soon. So with that, those are the updates I have regarding operations and bankruptcy. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. And hearing no questions from the committee, we'll continue on to, Mayor Kirkland.
Not a question, but just want to I just want to throw out my thanks to the members of council for working also on behalf of our police department and making sure that our police have new vehicles and vehicles that they can be safe in while patrolling our streets. I want to thank the council for all their hard work.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? All right, we're hearing no other comments from the committee. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is an update directly from me on receivership in general. I'm going to keep my comments brief as I'd like to use the balance of the time for Mr. Leitner and his presentation, Chief of Staff Leitner and his presentation. My continued cry will be to encourage folks to apply for some of the vacant positions that are in the city. In particular, we are actively recruiting for a chief financial officer. This position will be reposted probably by Friday, but I'd say at least by next week, that position will be out. We are using a professional search firm, Appian. So if anyone is not able to find, the application materials will not be submitted directly to the city. They will be submitted to the recruiting firm. But information about the posting should be on the city's website as soon as next week. Again, encouraging all to apply, as this is a very critical position for the city. In addition, there are several vacant positions in the city. Current list can be found on the city's website, and asking all to take a look at it, share with a friend, reshare online through social media, what have you. Again, encouraging all to apply. The second item was kind of an effort. I'll say we want to continue to expand our reach. Right now we are broadcasting on Facebook, but we're trying to figure out this modern tech of how to simultaneously broadcast on Instagram and YouTube. So hopefully in the next within the next 2 weeks or so, we'll have an expanded reach. Of course, there will be additional announcements as that becomes available. We've been kind of challenged to reach a younger demographic and abroad, and the ability to go back and find the videos a little easier on YouTube. So links to everything will be on our website, but just wanted to share that effort with all. But if there aren't any questions directly of me, I'd like to turn this over to Chief of Staff Leonard Leitner for a presentation. Mr. Leitner, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I want to thank the Infra Committee for this opportunity. I'll be brief, and I will glance through some of the slides, but I will spend some time on there. So if I could share my screen. Are you able to see the presentation? I think you can. Okay. So based off the court order, I did talk with counsel maybe a week or so ago, and I did speak with the staff yesterday. What we have here is a concept and an ideal of how we're going to, again, adhere to the court order and continue to refine our operations. What you're going to have here is, as I go through some of this is the agenda. We're going to be finding some of the goals that we want to achieve in the operations, analyzing the gaps within the strategy, and key strategies to achieve our goal. The objective and key results is one of the things I like to manage by. And you're going to also see timelines, takeaways, and next steps. So defining the goals of what we want to achieve, again, adhering to what we need to do to move forward. One of the things you're going to see here, we're looking at restructuring the workforce. And I want everyone to understand that this is working on our internal operations first. So there's going to be some slight restructuring. Some of it will look familiar to how the city was structured before. We know the conditions of our revenue and expenses, that our expenses are exceeding our revenue. So looking at restructuring and how we can tighten up and really get a grip of our expenses and some revenues that we're possibly leaving on the table through our technology, through code enforcement, in order to achieve a better quality of life for our citizens. We know what the problems problem is. So here's a problem statement is, again, managing the budgetary demands with decreased revenues and increased service demands. I'm sure council can tell you, as well as the receiver can tell you, the amount of phone calls we're getting of the services that people are wanting and expecting. One of the mindsets here is that we want to make sure that we're able to achieve good quality response to our citizens and meet the demands of what they're asking for. The current state, we know what that current state we're in. You know, we have state oversight, we have a court order, our expenses exceed our revenue. We have deferred maintenance. We have some, you know, from staffing standpoint, insufficient staff to meet the service demand of the city. We have some inconsistencies in our policies, our ordinance, and enforcement of those. We know what the desired state of where we want to go. And I believe that's from council's point of view, from the receiver's point of view, and even from the citizen's point of view, that we want to provide a better quality of life for our citizens, quality public service, get opportunities to create and sustain and enhance a safe and livable community. So what's the gap between our current state and our desired state is, again, we understand our financial situation, our resources, and then adequate staff. And sometimes when we're looking at that, I want everyone to understand I'm not harping on the staff or saying negative things about our staff, but we do need to provide some training. We do need to provide opportunities to empower the staffing and an ability for them to make some of these decisions on the spot to move forward. And again, resolve some of these customers' complaints that they may have. Where you're going to see here, I'm going to go through an org chart, just a couple of org charts as you look at the restructure. This is just the overall leadership team. You don't see a major change. You do see the citizens at the top, the mayor, council members. You can see the colored boxes, which demonstrates and outlines what those positions are, whether they're management, appointed, or elected officials, or non-bargaining. One thing I want the public to understand, as well as I've talked with the infra committee and council, is there has to be a foundational standpoint of where we're at. There are some key positions that we will need in order to help us to provide that quality of service that's needed to the citizens. So you will see positions in here, and I want, again, the public to understand that there will be a cost to that. I want the true story and the narrative to be that you understand what we have and what we're dealing with. So there are going to be positions that you will see outlined in some of these leadership in the actual org chart. Some of the positions are, you know, slotted maybe for 2023, 2024, or 2025. One thing I also want everyone to understand that this is a fluid document. As we move forward, we may have to adjust as we move when we determine if there's a particular position needed or not, or as we restructure some of the positions. This is what the mayor's office currently looks like, minus the 2 positions there that we're requesting to be new. One of the things you'll see when you see the project manager and grant writer, we have in our ARPA budget, but not only in the ARPA budget, there are roughly over 100 and something projects that are being worked on from the receiver standpoint, from council standpoint, and from the employee standpoint. What we're doing right now currently is putting those projects in a consolidated area, so the public can understand really everything that's being worked on, and that your voices are being heard, and that some way, shape, or form these projects are in the works. But there's nothing worse than having a whole bunch of projects, but we don't have someone that is able to see those projects to the finish line. So that's what you'll see with the project manager, especially with the ARPA dollars. We want to get these projects across the finish line. So we do really need to focus on having someone available to see these projects through the finish line. We know with the infrastructure funding, we know there's types of grants out there that we should be participating in and taking advantage of. And I firmly believe that a grant writer can help us retrieve some of those dollars to help implement and get some of these projects across the finish line where ARPA dollars can't take us across that finish line. So one of the things you will also notice is with the public affairs and what I'm calling development services, it's restructuring some of the departments. What you have is, again, your director of that department of public affairs or public development services, breaking those departments down to what I call bureaus within that department. What we need is to specialize and focus on these particular areas. So our permits, licensing and registration will be focused on those particular areas where they're dealing with the permits, licensing and registrations, and the service of our customers that come into the lobby. We want to make that like a one-stop shop, streamline that process so that we can, again, get results back to our customers the same day, making sure that we're tracking these licenses and permits and registrations. We have our planning and zoning department. One thing we're lacking when we're talking about code enforcement is we don't have a zoning officer to enforce the zoning code. Normally you have a zoning officer within the city that's out there enforcing the zoning ordinance. These are things that are outside of code enforcement themselves. This again is another opportunity for us to create a better quality of life, address code violations in the zoning ordinance, and simultaneously at the same time looking at revenue that is due to the city that perhaps we have been missing or not able to enforce. Under that, you will also see just engraved there the Art Commission. When we talk about development and we're talking about our art community, I've always firmly believed that we have to have the art community a part of our development process. This is what we call placemaking. Given the tourist part of coming to Chester, involving our art community in art, what we call art-based economic development. When you have that art community and able to incorporate that into your development, again, that's another source of revenue, it's another source of bringing people into our city. Moving under that other department, we have our building inspector. They will be focused on our electrical, plumbing, mechanical, new construction, rehabilitation, and that's third-party review, looking at plans and enforcement of the actual building code. What you will also see split that's different would be our housing inspection. There's some things that council and our legal team and receiver are working on that will help when we talk about quality of life when it comes to residential inspections and rental inspections. There's some things that we're working on currently that we hope to be putting out to the public shortly that will help us give us a better understanding of our condition of our homes, the quality of our homes, the number of homes that we have that are multi-unit properties that have been cut up and split up into 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit properties. There's things we want to look at as well when it comes to lead in our homes. Many of our homes have been built before 1978. And we know there's lead in these homes. So incorporating all of this into our development service and public affairs will do several different things for us. Again, look at our revenue, provide better code enforcement, and also provide a better quality of life. And this is our housing program. Again, we don't have that in place, but this is a future concept of something that we will want to be looking at, again, to provide that opportunity for our housing, our homeowners to, one, stabilize homeownership, but at the same time, the people that have planted roots and have homeownership that may not be able to afford rehabbing their house or fixing the code violations, this is an opportunity for us to partner with some of our housing groups to help provide that opportunity to, again, stabilize our homeowners. I'm not going to go through all of our objectives and key results, what I call OKRs, but what you have at the top is this is broken down by each one of those departments that you've seen. I like to operate within quarters. I just don't want to put something out there that says, okay, yeah, this is what we want to achieve, but I want to also empower our staff, but also let our staff understand that there's a point in time that we have to hold them accountable and responsible for making some of these things happen. So just to give you an idea, the first one is the permit, licensing, and registration. There's an objective there is we want to provide a seamless customer service process for the people that are coming in applying for permits. How do we do that? We utilize that by having key activities, results that we can measure. So one, we need to train our staff on the admin system, utilizing our technology to really benefit the citizens, but also make it for a more efficient process internally for us. Talking about our parcels, making sure that the data that we have that's going into our system is accurate, it's timely, and that we can do something with that data to produce data back, to provide reports back to our receiver, to our council members, in order for us, and even to myself as chief of staff, so that we can make better informed decisions and timely decisions, and understand how we need to adjust, whether it's legislation, where there's processes. But in order for us to do that, we need to have accurate information in order to make timely and sound decisions. So that's what these key, what I call OKRs are. Again, they change as the quarter goes. If we've met them, great. If we haven't, we'll have reasons why we can't. And this is information that we provide back to the council, to the receiver, to the citizens, to understand that these are the hurdles that we had encountered that perhaps maybe didn't allow us to achieve that objective. It doesn't necessarily mean we do away with the objective. We may have to move that objective over to the third quarter or the fourth quarter. But again, we need measurable activities in order to meet these different objectives. What you see here is a timeline. Now, this timeline is more so for the internal operations and for the actual employees. Some of these timelines are very aggressive, but at the same time, we know that this is fluid and we may have to adjust some of these timelines and dates that you see along here. The reason for the different colors there are representing, so you see the one there in blue at the bottom, it says right here, all codes entered into Edmunds. So what that is that's for our L&I department, our code enforcement. We are governed by not only our property maintenance code, but our UCC code. We want to make sure that all these state codes and local codes are entered into our system. What this does for us is when our code enforcement officers are out there, it makes for an eased reporting system. It gives us the opportunity to provide digital feedback to our landlords, to the owner of the property. It makes for a more easy efficiency that when they do the reporting, it's automated. It can be emailed to the customer. No longer are we going to be handwriting reports, but if the codes are in there, they just do the click of a button and it's all in there, and it makes for a more efficient process. So if you follow the blue along the timeline, by March 8th, we want to make sure that, we provide that information in the ordinance and that the ordinance is passed. That timeline may have to be pushed back a little bit. We want to test the admin system, which is here, that makes sure that the ordinance is in place in the system, that our codes are in place in the system, and test to make sure our systems are working properly. And then, April 3rd, somewhere around that time frame, to make sure all the codes and admin systems are tested and the new tablets and everything are issued. So as you can see, each color is coordinated and staying the same. And these are for different departments within that same department. This is our public works format. And again, I'm not going to go through each one of the departments. What I'm going to do is jump ahead, but this is outlined for each one of the departments. From public works, same thing, they have OKRs, they have a timeline. Our park, health and recreation, this is something new that people may not be used to, but under our park, we really don't have a health department since the county has our health department. But what we see when we talk about recreational, we talk about healthy living, we talk about our parks and trails, we are looking at incorporating our health personnel into our recreational activities, but also they still will do what they do with the health, but they would also incorporate activities of health into our recreational programs and concepts. One of the key things there is, I know that one time we put our park and public works together, but this is one thing I need the public to understand, just like I talk with the staff. When you look at our park plan, we have over 874 acres of parkland. We currently have about 6 workers or so that are currently trying to maintain 874 acres of park. Now, we know that all 874 acres of parkland isn't grass, but there is grass, there's trees, there's equipment, there's all sorts of things within our park. So what you see there is we have summer laborers, but this is a request. This is something that I will be talking with the receiver about. We've talked before, and I've talked with council about. And I need the public to understand that as well, is that to maintain these parks, you need skilled labor. You can't just have someone out there cutting grass. There's fertilizer and treatment that needs to go with grass. We need arborists for tree trimming. So there's different aspects of a park plan. When we talk about the park plan and park maintenance, there's a lot involved with that. So understanding that and really getting trained staff in order to be able to address that. Again, they have OKRs as well. They have a timeline as well. Our finance. So this is the first step. Finance and HR is going to be our first thing that we're taking under restructure. As the receiver mentioned at the beginning, we're still looking for a chief of staff, or I'm sorry, a chief financial officer or director of finance. We currently already have a deputy director of finance or deputy CFO. So currently, right now, there's current things that she's doing in her current role that we're going to have to readjust to allow her to function in that role, which means we're going to have to shift some of her duties and responsibilities amongst these individuals across this line here. What we're doing is aligning these particular areas. Payroll will function under payroll and pension. We have revenue and treasury, which will be focused strictly on the revenue and treasury. And this does a couple of different things for us. One, it allows us to put ownership, accountability, and responsibility in these particular areas. So we know where to go and who to talk to that who has ownership. I firmly believe in giving ownership to the staff, giving them true accountability and responsibility to take ownership of their jobs. I consider these individuals in these positions experts in their field. And I would expect nothing less from that they will operate in that capacity. We currently do not have a purchasing manager. We have the position. We're in this process of looking to hire a purchasing manager to take on our purchasing and procurement. We do have accounts payable person, and that accounts payable person will be reporting to the purchasing manager. This is not a new concept. This is something that the city had before, and you will see this across many municipalities where this structure is set up this way. And again, you have your auditing and accounting as well that functions under that capacity. There are a few new key positions, but again, some of these are looking further out into the year, and there's reasons for these positions that we have them there, but also where they're pushed out into the future. Because as we start redefining some of these positions, we may or may not need this. We may need to readjust that title or readjust that position. So before finance and HR were combined. So this is one thing you're seeing that's done immediately. HR and finance have been split. Finance has their OKRs as well. I met with finance today, and we're in the process of looking at these objectives. And we're in the process of getting these things underway currently as we speak. And their timeline as well. Again, some of these timelines will have to be adjusted because we just started this as of yesterday. Our HR department, again, separated from finance. We have a director of personnel now. And we currently have these positions. HR generalist is filled. We have a vacant generalist position that's going to be opening up shortly. And one thing you're going to see, again, looking for a risk manager and possibly labor relations in 2025. But this is a key position, risk manager. Having a risk manager helps us focus on several different things: accidents, workers' compensation, training. So these are aspects, I think at the beginning, as the mayor mentioned, and as the receiver mentioned, Chief of Staff Kapoor mentioned, we have 20 new vehicles coming in from the police. We want to make sure that if an event happens, accidents happens, we need to make sure that we're reporting these timely, not only accidents, physical vehicle accidents, but same thing with worker comp accidents. Having a risk manager allows us to maintain and actually report timely, resolve the issues timely, and actually reduce our risk and our claims within the city. Again, when we talk about expenses and revenues, having that risk manager, their main function is to reduce the risk in the city and also help us reduce expenses. Same thing goes here for human resources, objectives, and key results. One thing in the future, looking at opportunity for lead grants. Seeing it in the future where lead grants have benefited to help us rehab our properties, but address the lead within the city. But I want to make sure we're structured properly from a code enforcement standpoint, a financial standpoint, that we're structured properly in order to even consider a lead grant so that we can appropriately administer the lead grant and be effective with our lead grant opportunities. I know there's a big concern about animal control. I hear it almost daily. I know our council people and the receiver hear about it daily. This is something we're looking at currently. We're looking at some best practices. We're looking at and talking with some other municipalities that have animal control. So it is on our horizon. You're seeing here, we're looking to try to put something in place in 2023. But again, we have to make sure that revenue-wise, we can really maintain this. So we're looking at it, we're addressing it, and hopefully we'll have some type of answer on how we can move forward with animal control. Timeline. Discuss this again with the staff. Currently, we're in the planning stages of the goals or objectives, strategic intent. As we're planning, and some of these positions, we may have to reopen the budget. So we're looking at having that conversation somewhere around mid-May. Strategy standpoint, we're analyzing our current departments, we're analyzing the staff, we're analyzing the situations, and we're looking at our strengths, our weaknesses, and our opportunities and our threats when it comes to not only internally, but externally. And at the same time, we're going to be looking at introducing some new policies, some ordinances, and that's going to take place between now and July. And then the reason I'm doing it this way is I don't want to put too many policies and ordinances in place right away. We need to put some in place and take this time right here to review the implementation of these new policies and ordinances. Again, opening the budget, closing the budget sometime by mid-year, and then analyzing the budget from that point forward to the end of the year. Goals, what we're looking to do. We can't implement all these changes at once. So we're doing it in stages. The biggest thing I talked about, again, IT contract, our technology. We're in the process of getting our contract or of reviewing proposals to award an IT contract to help with our internal IT management. From security of our IT to increasing our IT infrastructure, our servers, all of those things need to take place. So we're in the process of doing that now, hoping to award something by March 15th. If we can't make March 15th, it will be on the council's agenda, by the March 20th council meeting. But this is the timeframe we're shooting for. March 31st, again, is our timeline as we transition the finance and HR split and all the duties and changes within the positions and the department by the end of 31st. Could this extend a little bit? Possibly. We're going to see how this goes. And then we're again looking to move some of the other departments in these timeframes here. Public Affairs, Park and Recs, and Public Works. This is a fluid timeline. Again, I don't want to put a lot of changes into place right now because we want to make sure that we're doing it and we're doing it right. We're going to, again, as we look forward, but we want to make sure we're communicating this, our progress, what has happened, the good and the bad, throughout the process, but more so by, November 15th, when we're looking at the budget, to give an overall concept of how things have been happening. The key goal achieved here, again, we want to restructure the workforce. We want to really look at our revenue and expenses, deal with our technology and our code enforcement. Just to digest that a little bit, technology, we're really going to push on that. And one thing I want you to see in here is there's systems that we currently have. We have a GIS system, we have a Ptolemy system. These things are systems that we have in place that can really help us with our code enforcement, help us across all our departments. One thing I want us to really work on internally is that all the departments will be able to see what's happening in real time on a particular parcel. So our police, our fire, our code enforcement, real time will know what's happening in every parcel of the city. So if police has gone out there, we can annotate that. Code enforcement would know that police was just out there. Fire, if fire went out there and they've been caught out there 5 times in the last quarter, we would be able to know that, and code enforcement would be able to know that. So it's getting the internal departments to be able to communicate efficiently, effectively, and in real time. What I want you to take away from this is that all of us are in this together. Council, the receiver, the staff, and you, the community, infrac committee. We're open to ideas, suggestions, but we have to be realistic with this and understand that we're all in this together. Takeaway, again, from accountability, responsibility, it's a must. Individually from us as the administrative team, but collectively as a community, collectively as a leadership team. And I really want to talk about, we must do more with less as we secure our financial ground. I want to be careful with that. And I want the public and everyone to understand that we have been managing, right? We've been doing what we can with the resources and stuff we have. When I say less, I'm not looking to downsize, and I had to explain this to staff. We're not looking to downsize, but we are looking to right size, right? Putting the right people in the right positions. And again, when I say less, utilizing technology where maybe bodies have been, but utilizing technology to our advantage in order to make some sound decisions in real time. And understanding time is of the essence. That's why I say all of us are in this together, because we have to achieve and make some of these things happen, not just for us personally, but for the community who's asking for results. And when we talk about that, again, we're getting the calls constantly, so are you. And I'll just use animal control as an example. We can't keep saying, okay, we're working on it. So that's why I say time is of the essence. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation. These are just the next steps. Again, restructure policies, and again, keeping the community involved, analyzing along the way, and keeping key metrics to measure how we're doing along the way. So with that ends the presentation, and I'm open to questions if there are any questions that you all may have. And
Thank you, Chief Leitner. As we open it up to the full committee, are there any questions from the committee of Chief Leitner? Well, Andrew.
Yeah, has there been any, I know you talked about reopening the budget April 1st. Do you guys have any idea of what the budgetary impact might be on the expense side for some of the new positions that you guys are proposing?
yes, I do have that number. I haven't shared that with the receiver yet. But I do have an estimate of what that cost would be. And we're looking at, if, just to be frank with you, that's over like $2.5 million for some of those key proposal positions. That is including everything, benefits, and salary.
And I also noticed, if I can continue, I saw you may be expecting a 10% increase in revenues through enforcement of certain ordinances that you guys have on the books.
Correct.
And that's about 7 million?
Yes, and we firmly believe that because there's a particular ordinance that we're just about to finalize and put on the books. We believe that that can get us, a good 1.5, 1.6 million. And then just looking at just enforcement, from enforcement standpoint to penalties, there's some revenue that we're leaving on the table. 10% is aggressive, a 10% increase, but I believe that it's doable.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sheaf. Mayor Kirkland, I think let's see you raise your hand. You're on mute, sir.
My apologies. Thank you. Mr. Leitner, you said something about training. Are we talking about training, the training on the new equipment such as Edmund system and new positions for the new positions, or are we talking about people who are already in position, training them or retraining them to do the job that they're currently doing?
It's a good question, Mayor, and it's a little bit of both. So I am part of the COG and also talking with other municipalities, and I'll give you an example. We'll use account payable, right? If we have a person in that position, we can talk with some of our neighbor municipalities and have them go over and spend some time with them to look at some of the best practice, how they do things. We also belong to some of these professional organizations like ICME, SHRM. They offer a lot of free training online that we can put the employees on to get them trained in that. The other thing too, Mary, is we're looking currently with HR, we're looking at the job descriptions. And as we're looking at job descriptions, to make sure that these job descriptions are aligned with the position. So if someone's in a position and that job description has a particular function or skill set that they need, we may have to retrain them. We may have to send them online training or send them to a neighbor municipality. But we got to figure out a way to do that. Also, admins, we have admins slotted to come in, I believe, in the next 2 weeks to come in and start training the staff on the admin system. So they're slotted to come in as well. The GIS system, we're setting that up so that they can come in and train as well. So holding some of these vendors accountable to have them, provide us with either online training or physically come here and train our employees on the systems themselves. So we're doing everything across the board, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. I try to add these up real fast. I see where we are looking at approximately 55 new positions. Some of these, well, I guess I would call them so-called new positions, we've had in the past, animal control, which I definitely know we need, animal control, building managers or building manager. So some of these are actually, and I just want some clarity with that, positions that we've had in the city at past times. We've downsized and now we're looking to try to fulfill 55 positions.
It's aggressive, Mayor. And again, I do not want to paint a false narrative or picture to you guys in the infra committee, to the public, or to the employees. The reality is the reality, right? That's basically a foundation of where we're at. But we also have to look at from the financial standpoint. But as Mr. Sheaf had asked, I want them to know. I want the public to know and everyone to know that this is what it's going to cost. If we're going to deliver the quality of service and timely service that's needed to the constituents and the citizens here, this is what it's going to require of us. So we're going to have to look at it across the board. So I didn't want to put something together that doesn't show a true reality of what we really need and where we're at. So again, I tried to keep it as neutral, but as realistic as possible, keeping in mind the financial situation we're in. I hope I answered your question, but again, that's really where I think I'm at.
No, you did. I appreciate the I appreciate the presentation and also just letting the community know, the public know, residents know that we are, I mean, it is what it is. 50, I was just counting them real fast, 55 positions that are desperately needed. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any more questions from the committee? Mr. Kapoor?
Just one thing, I just wanted to, again, I apologize for jumping in here. I'm not a true committee member here, but really appreciate that the presentation by Mr. Leitner. You know, I will say what from a bankruptcy perspective, seeing this is helpful to understand, just as Mr. Leitner said, kind of what he views the city as needing. You know, as I think the MFRAC committee knows or should know, we do not have a balanced budget in 2023. In fact, we came into 2023 with around a $2.3 million deficit. So, you know, to the extent of saying, and again, I'm not trying to throw cold water on this. This is something we're going to have to kind of, I think, figure out and think through as we're dealing with the bankruptcy process and the plan of adjustment. You know, if what we're hearing here is, you know, you need probably another $2.5 million. If you're already 2.3 in the hole to begin with, and then you need another 2.5, you know, you're looking at it at sort of a hole to climb out of, you know, a little bit under $5 million, which is something that's quite difficult to do. But again, I mean, I think that the benefit of seeing this, certainly as we're discussing in the bankruptcy and the need to kind of figure out what the plan of adjustment looks like is helpful to have this operations piece, because again, at the end of the day, you know, cities exist to provide services to their residents, and you know, that's a key component, and obviously we have to figure out how to finance that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kapoor. And that I'll jump to my last comment first, and just to piggyback your statements there. Mr. Chief Leitner and I have that conversation often, and I would expand upon the $5 million gap that's here in 23, and just say that's $5 million after significant revenue replacement dollars and capital project dollars from ARPA. So projecting this out for future years, the gap in operations or funding of operations is significant. All the reasons why we're going through the bankruptcy process, but it would not behoove the city to go through the process and still end up in the same position of understaffed and trying to scramble to fill these positions. Chief Leitner appropriately is designing to not just a goal or a desired state, but really to, I'll say a required minimum, a required baseline of where the city needs to be financially and from a staff and operational perspective. So it's going to be a lot to come together, but there's a reason why we're in this process, right? So thank you, Chief, for pulling this together. I did want to ask, though, as this is being shared publicly for the first time, I know you've had some internal meetings. If you could just share with us a bit some of the sentiment or feelings coming out. I'm sure there's a wide range of emotions, but in your meetings with the elected officials and leadership and the employees, how was this received?
Thank you for that. I would say that, so understand how when I met with the mayor first, and then I met with council, and I would tell you that it was well received. They received it. They had questions. In their questioning, there were some legitimate questions of, you know, why, and also some statements of this is kind of where we were at one time with this type of structure and layout. But ultimately, overall, it was well received. Met with the staff yesterday. The mayor kicked it off, and meeting with the staff yesterday, there were a couple of council members there as well. It was well received again. Many of the employees came in not sure not understanding what's happening. So giving them this and giving them the heads up before we go public, I think went very well, because the fact is they weren't blindsided. I mean, they knew what was happening before, and they understood because it affects them. So they were appreciative of that. They were also appreciative to understand the reality of it and understand that we see and understand that they're overworked. They need the resources, and that someone sees that, and that we see that and understand that. They were appreciative of that as well. So I would say that overall, like I said, it was well received for the most part, of just keeping them informed, understanding that they're being heard, and at the same time understanding that we're really working to try to make things better, not only for them, but for the citizens. So I would tell you that it was funny, because after the meeting, we met at 3, we ended at about 4:15. I didn't leave, finished talking to employees till almost 6 o'clock. People were just coming, calling me, stopping by, asking questions, trying to understand it. So even first thing this morning, I had some employees stop past asking about it. So they like the concept, they understand it. They feel pressure though, because of the timeline. And some of them feel like some of the dates and times and the things we're asking are harsh or unrealistic. And that's why I say it is fluid. We're going to have to adjust the timeline, but we do have to set the expectations that we need to make some of these things happen and move forward.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I assuming we'll have similar questions from the general public, and this presentation was a bit condensed. Would you be okay with us putting this on our website or somehow disseminating this to the public?
I don't mind. Like I said, just there, so long as the public and everyone knows it's a fluid document, and it's going to be adjusted as we move along. But I'm more than welcome to share that.
Thank you for that. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us here today and for the presentation. That really brings us to the end of our meeting. Does anyone else have anything for the good of this order before we depart? Well, hearing none, I will just put a general note out there that our next MFRAC meeting is scheduled for March 14th. We have 2 meetings scheduled in March, the 14th and the 28th, both set to start at 1 p.m. As of this moment, we don't have any scheduled presentations, but we will try to put that out there as soon as possible, as soon as we have if anything comes together. But thank you again for joining us here today. Good afternoon.